What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the Game Week 8 preview, so I'm going to talk about captaincy for Game Week 8. Surprise, surprise, it's probably Haaland. Talk about forward options because there was a lot of questions about them, and then get into your general questions as well. I'm not going to go through a huge amount of injury updates in this one from the international break stuff because there's a few things that are up in the air. Basically, we're waiting for press conferences on Thursday and Friday, and because it's a Saturday deadline, I'll be able to listen to all the press conferences before I do final thoughts on Friday. So in terms of updates about players that might be flagged and stuff like that, I'll save them for Friday. I'll try and keep this one a little bit more general. Let's get into it. So let's start with captaincy for Game Week 8, and it's pretty much Haaland. That's pretty much it. That's what I'm going to be saying for the next few weeks to come. If you've got him in your team, it's really difficult to go against him. Everton at home on paper, not a bad fixture whatsoever. And interestingly, out of the three players that I've picked here, as probably the ones most people will be looking at in Game Week 8 for captaincy, Haaland, Salah and Saka, Everton have only conceded 7 goals. Man United and Fulham are 11. But when you look at the expected goals conceded, it's all pretty close. 1.42 for Everton, 1.37 for Man United and 1.45 for Fulham. So there's not a huge amount of difference between these fixtures. But obviously the Everton and Man United ones are at home, and we know how strong Man City are. Haaland averaging over 1 XG per game. Everything just points towards him. And Jack Grealish can't play in this game either because he's on loan from Man City. And this probably doesn't have a major effect on captaincy discussion, but he does a lot of work kind of progressing the ball, keeping hold of it, winning fouls so that the opposition can't attack. And Everton now don't have him. And lots of the stuff that Everton do now goes through Jack Grealish. So they will be slightly weaker. But I don't think it really matters a huge amount. It was just something I was thinking about earlier. So either way, Everton at home, good fixture. Haaland probably the best captain. If you're one of those FPL managers sat there with Haaland and Salah in your team, I do think there's a little bit of debate about whether or not to go for Salah. Because at the moment, he's not looking great. His underlying numbers have been pretty awful. And every now and again, Man United do perform well in these tougher fixtures, but it is a home game for Salah, and I would not be surprised if he walks away with something. I don't think that Haaland is miles ahead of Salah this week, is basically what I'm trying to say. And if you're sat there with both, and you want to go a little bit different, I don't mind the Salah captaincy. If I had both, I'd probably just go Haaland. It just feels like the easy decision to make at the moment. But for those of you that like to take a minor risk every now and again, I do like Salah. I've included Saka as well as like a third option for people. Maybe you're running a team that doesn't have Haaland or Salah, but I don't think he's that great this week. He's fine, Fulham away, but it's not. I don't look at that and think I've got to captain Saka. If I've got Salah or Haaland, I'm definitely going for them instead. So it's only really for people that are running a no Haaland Salah team for whatever reason that might be. Saka's probably next in line. I really don't think there's any other options. Like Chelsea against Forest is an okay fixture, but you're not going to captain Enzo. You're not going to captain Joao Pedro. Newcastle are away from home. Palace at home to Bournemouth. I mean, it's not an easy fixture for them. You could go for like a Foden if you wanted to against Everton at home, but I think owning Foden is enough for me. You're not going to captain any other Liverpool players outside of Salah. Who does captain? It's just, no. So it's Haaland or Salah for me. And if you really want to, look at Saka, but I don't think, he's the third best choice, I think, this week. But I don't think he's that close to Salah or Haaland. So I had a lot of questions this week about forwards. Who are the best 3 right now? If I'm selling this forward, which one should I be buying? I'm on wildcard. Who's the best option under 8 million? Those kind of things. So I thought I would talk about forwards in general, give you my thoughts, and then you can decide which one to pick. So the 6 I've got here are Isak, Gyokeres, Bowen, Joao, Pedro, Mateta, and Woltemade. I do want to quickly talk about some cheaper options as well, though, just so I don't forget them. One of which is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's probably my favourite cheap forward to go for at the moment at 5.5. 390 minutes in a row, probably on penalties as well, and does get a lot of chances. Now, he is one of those players that frustrates a little bit because he often underperforms his XG. He's not the greatest finisher, but he does get quite a few chances that eventually the goals will come. He is on penalties as well, and he's only 5.5. The expectation should be pretty low. I do have to clarify, though, that in recent videos, someone pointed this out to me. I'm almost making it sound like if you want someone that plays, Calvert-Lewin's the cheapest way to do that. That's not the case, right? You've got Lyle Foster at Burnley, who's currently yellow flag, but if Scott Parker passes him fit, we know he's a starter for Burnley. He's only 5 million, but I do think Calvert-Lewin's probably worth the extra 0.5. If you look on the Opta Stats tool on Fantasy Football, this is just one of the many tools they've got. As always, link in the description below if you want to sign up and check them all out. 50% off at the moment. If we look at Foster so far this season for Burnley, 0.15 non-penalty expected goals per 90. Pretty rubbish. Calvert-Lewin is not like a world beater or anything like that, don't get me wrong, but 0.34, so double the chances already. I just think for 0.5, Leeds will be stronger as well. I just think you pay the extra 0.5, basically. If you only want someone to mostly sit on your bench that starts, and every now and again, if you get really stuck, you could use them, then of course go for Foster and save the money. I think if you're going to need them a bit more regularly, you just pay for Calvert-Lewin, I think. So he's an option at 5.5. Not essential, right? Not going to score tons of goals, but probably enough to make that 5.5 million price tag an okay fee to pay. The other one is Strand Larsen, who I was pretty keen on at the start of the season as someone just to put in and kind of set and forget. I'm a little bit less sure about him now. He hasn't obviously started the season well, did pick up an injury and was struggling with that for a little bit. It seems weird to say I'm not too keen on him now when it's Sunderland away and Burnley at home next. The thing that worries me is Sunderland have started okay this season. And if you look at Rob T's numbers on Twitter for clean sheets by the bookies, you've got Arsenal and Man City top this week, and then it's Sunderland, like in third place. So if he blanks against Sunderland and you've only got Burnley at home, then you run into Fulham away, Chelsea away, Palace at home, Villa away. That's not great. So I feel like if you're the kind of manager that just wants to put in a 6.4 million forward that will pretty much always start, the minutes will be pretty good, he's probably on penalties, and you're willing to hold him for quite a while, then definitely look at Strand Larsen. But I don't think many people are like that. And I just think once you get past Burnley, it gets pretty rough fixture-wise. Even after the Villa game in 13, like Forest at home in 14, pretty good. Then Man United at home, Arsenal away. And then it's Liverpool away in 18. Like from 10 to 18, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, I can count. 9 games. 1, 2, 3, 5 of them are away from home. And of those 5 games, you've got Chelsea, Arsenal and Liverpool. So as a long-term pick, I don't know. For 0.8 million more, you can go and buy Woltemade. So I'm actually not sure I would go for Strand Larsen right now. But also, that's probably partially a little bit of bias because he hasn't scored yet. If he'd scored a few goals, would I be saying the same thing? Maybe not. So just keep that in mind. Evanilson, if you've got him, maybe you keep him. We'll talk about that later. Probably wouldn't be buying him. I just got to a Woltemade for 0.2 million more. On Isak, maybe not the worst time to buy him. We know he's probably going to be first choice for Liverpool ahead of Ekitike. The fixture run is pretty good. And at a point where maybe Palmer's not a great option, we'll wait and see what Maresca says on Friday. Maybe people have got a bit of money to spend if they're only on a Haaland or Salah draft. If you've got both, Isak's probably not going to happen. But if you've only got one, maybe you can afford him. So let's say you're sick of Gyokeres, you've got 2 million in the bank. Upgrade him to Isak. I don't hate it. The only thing is, I still don't, and maybe this is just me being overly cautious, I still don't trust the minutes longer term. I just think Ekitike is too good to sit on that bench too much. Now, in the next few weeks, it looks quite obvious, right? Isak plays against Man United this week, then Ekitike plays Champions League. Then Isak plays against Brentford in game week 9. Ekitike plays in the Carabao Cup against Palace at home. So then Isak would start the next game against Villa. Or will he? Will he? Because then they've got Real Madrid. So if he's built up enough fitness to play Villa, then Real Madrid, fine. But if he plays those 2 games, does he play the Man City game? Well, okay, it's Man City away. Does it matter if Isak misses that? Maybe not, but he's 10.6 million. It's okay saying I've got someone under 6 million who's a midfielder. If they miss out, I don't care. It's not taking up much of my budget. But with Isak at 10.6, it's not quite the same. And also, it might not work out that well. It might be that, I don't know, maybe Isak plays the... Sorry, maybe Ekitike plays the Villa game and Isak is saved for Real Madrid. And all of a sudden, missing Villa at home, that would annoy you. Man City away, maybe you write it off. Villa at home, you don't. So it seems unlikely that Ekitike would play EFL Cup and then miss the Villa game and let Isak play when he's got Real Madrid next up. But you just don't know, right? You just don't know how the rotation will work. And it seems right now that neither Ekitike or Isak are at full fitness where they can go and play 90 minutes week in, week out. So there's going to be a bit of rotation. So the only reason I would go Isak is because you've got an easy route to him where it's one transfer, you've got the money in the bank, you just want to go a bit different. I don't see anyone captaining him anytime soon or anything like that, but maybe that doesn't matter. So if you've got the money, because of the fixtures, I don't mind it as a punt. But I just, you're not going to be able to trust him starting every single week over the next 6 game weeks. And obviously he doesn't have penalties like he did at Newcastle. So he hasn't got the penalties, hasn't got the minutes. He's more expensive now. He's fine as a punt, but I don't think he's much more than that. I'm not sitting there right now in a mad panic to bring him in or anything like that. With Gyokeres, the next 4 fixtures, 3 of them are away from home. Fulham this week, then Burnley in 10, Sunderland in 11. I'm not too worried because of the Burnley-Sunderland games, but it does feel like the wrong time to buy him when most people sat there with Gyokeres are at least thinking about when they might sell him. Even if you're not in a rush to do it, I bet it's crossed your mind if you're a Gyokeres owner. Do I switch him to Saka? Do I give him the next 4 games, then sell him? What's happening with Havertz? You're not quite comfortable with him. And so it feels like the wrong time to buy him. If someone wanted to bring him in, I don't mind it. But wait and see what Arteta says on Friday about Havertz. Because if he's getting closer and closer, Gyokeres' minutes will come down a bit. He didn't score for Sweden during the international break. Not that Sweden did well in general. Mourinho keeps scoring for Spain. I don't see Arteta switching, by the way, because Arteta's bigged up Gyokeres quite a bit recently. I think he will start against Fulham and probably get close to 90. Same against Palace, etc. But I don't know. I've got him in my team and I'm okay to hold him. But there's always that thought, do I upgrade into Isak? Do I sell him and get Saka in, etc.? So it feels like the wrong time to buy him. Let's move on to the 4 forwards that I think a lot of people are looking at this week, around 7.5 million. So you've got Bowen, Joao, Pedro, Mateta and Woltemade. With Jarrod Bowen, I quite like him in the short term, next 4 game weeks, because 3 of those matches are at home, Brentford, Newcastle, Burnley, and the away one is Leeds. But I don't see him as a longer term pick. Not that he's bad, because he'll always play 90 and he'll start every single game. But the fixtures do get quite rough after game week 11. So it's Bournemouth away in 12 and then Liverpool at home in 13. And if I look a little bit longer than that, in 14 it's Man United away, 15 is Brighton away, Villa at home in 16, Man City away in 17. So quite a few away games there after that Burnley game. And even Newcastle at home in 10 is not easy. So I don't mind him as a short-term pump. If you're looking to put someone in to hold long-term, I think the fixtures get rough quite soon, basically. And he's not on penalties or anything like that. Presumably that will still be Paquetá, who's already taken one this season. So if you're looking someone short term, I definitely think that Jarrod Bowen is competitive versus Joao Pedro. And for the next 4 game weeks, I would prefer Bowen. But if you're looking longer term, I think I prefer Woltemade or Mateta. Mateta in particular is the one that I like out of these 4 options. Absolutely nailed. There is a bit of competition from Nketiah now, but presumably any rotation will happen in Europe. It does mean Mateta might get subbed earlier a little bit more often, but his minutes should still be good. And I think he'll start the majority of Premier League games, if not all of them. And he's on penalties as well. And when you look at his underlying numbers so far this season, he has kind of underwhelmed a little bit in terms of his output. Like he should have scored in the last game against Everton, had a really good chance. But he is getting those chances. The goals will come. 0.51 non-penalty expected goals per 90. That is really good for a player that's nailed non-penalties for 7.5 million. But you look at the rest, Bowen so far 0.12 expected goals per 90, 0.24 for Joao Pedro, and 0.3 for Woltemade. I just think in Mateta you've got a really good player that also plays for a really good team and he's first choice penalty taker. If you're looking to put someone in, just forget about them for a while. He is the one that I would go for. And it also helps with how many home games they've got coming up. Arsenal away in 9 is not great. And that's why I think there's better shorter term options like Bowen, like Joao Pedro. But Bournemouth at home in 8, Brentford at home in 10, Brighton at home in 11, Wolves away in 12, and then Man United at home in game week 13. And even if you look a little bit longer term than that, so I've just gone up to game week 13, you've got Burnley away in 14. Then it does get a bit tougher. Fulham away, Man City at home, Leeds away. But even then, like Leeds away, not really a problem. If I had to play him against Fulham away, not an issue either. You do have African Cup of Nations around this time, so Sarr will probably go. Well, I mean, he'll definitely go for that. So that's going to be a big miss. But that's quite a way in the future. I think if you're looking from like 8 to 14, Mateta's probably the one that I would go for. Woltemade obviously will take penalties when Gordon's not on the pitch. The fixtures are okay. There's a lot of away games in there. Brighton, West Ham, Brentford, Everton, all away from home next 6. And one of the home games is Man City in 12. So he's not a bad option, but I definitely prefer paying 0.3 more for Mateta. So I would say next 4 game weeks, I prefer Bowen over Joao Pedro. Long-term pick, I prefer Mateta over all of them. Joao Pedro I wouldn't sell, and the next 5 fixtures are quite good. And I think you could make a case to buy him, but I think if you're going short-term, you just buy Bowen instead. I'd be a bit more comfortable with him. He's got the guaranteed minutes, and I would just see him as a bit more of a threatening player for goals and assists overall anyway. So let's get into some of your questions. What are your opinions on EZE with Odegaard out until the end of November? Is he worth going for over Saka? Now, I don't think Arsenal have officially confirmed how long Odegaard's going to be out for yet, but there are lots of reports going around saying he won't be back until after the next international break. Yes, I hate to break it to you, there's another international window coming up between game weeks 11 and 12. Some reports do say end of November, but either way, we're probably not expecting Odegaard back until at least Spurs at home in game week 12. And that is on the 23rd of November. Then Chelsea away in game week 13 is the 30th of November. So you've probably got at least 4 game weeks, maybe 5, where Odegaard won't be available. And also, the beauty for Arteta right now is because they've got so much depth, they don't have to rush him back. So Eze's probably going to have pretty good minutes for at least 4 game weeks and probably after the international break as well, if he's fit and available. So at 7.6 million, I do quite like him with that Odegaard injury because it boosts his minutes so much. I still don't think it's a guarantee that Eze starts every single game, but they have got other opportunities to potentially rest him over this run. Like, he probably starts against Fulham. He hasn't played a huge amount for England over the international break. Then he probably plays the Champions League and the Palace game. Maybe Eze gets a rest against Brighton at home in the Carabao Cup before the Burnley game. And potentially then he plays in the Champions League, gets subbed early, whatever it might be. I do think his minutes look quite good. Not guaranteed, but pretty good for 7.6 million. And his underlying numbers are decent. He's a really good player. I like him as a short-term punt. Would I buy him over Saka if I had the money? Probably not. And the reason for that is, at the moment, if you're on a Salah or Haaland draft, so you've only got one, there's quite a bit of money to spend. We can't have much confidence in Cole Palmer unless Maresca is super positive about him on Friday. I'm still not quite sure about Isak, for example. There's not a huge amount of places to spend your money. If you've got the cash for Saka, you know, no matter who comes back to full fitness, Saka is first choice in the Arsenal 11. Yes, when Madueke is back fit, he will take some minutes off Saka. He will get played in the odd game, probably in Carabao Cup, etc. But Saka is first choice. You can't say the same for Eze. Because on the left, you've got Trossard and Martinelli, and Eze hasn't been used a huge amount on that left side. And centrally, when Odegaard's back, that's massive competition. So you know he's a problem later on. With Saka, that's not really the case as long as he stays fit. So I think if I've got the money, I just put Saka in for the long term. Because after that Chelsea away game in game week 13, you've got Brentford at home in 14, Villa away in 15, Wolves at home in 16. The fixtures are still pretty good. It might be that Palmer's back absolutely smashing it at that point. You want to go for him instead. But it might not be the case. And so long term, the fixtures for Arsenal are pretty good. Now, it's worth saying, just quickly, around game weeks 12, 13, that might be the time you want to jump to both Salah and Haaland. And if that's the case, Saka will probably be the one that goes. But if you get to that point and you don't want to do that, you just keep hold of Saka. So for me, he's still the much better longer term pick. But for 7.6 million, Eze is now competitive for the next 4 or 5 game weeks because his minutes are going to be really good. The fixtures are not bad, and he's just a good player. So I really don't mind it whatsoever. If you've got that kind of money to spend and you've got a spare Arsenal slot and you're willing to, you know, use that transfer later on to move him on, why not? The fixtures are good. He's good. The minutes are better now. Not guaranteed, of course. Got to keep saying that. But yeah, I wouldn't go for him over Saka. No, not if I've got the money. Unless the money saved gives you a massive upgrade. I just think with the way people have got their squad structured at the moment, that's probably not going to be the case. So another Arsenal question here. Would you consider getting rid of Raya for Pope or Sanchez to open up an Arsenal slot? Probably not. I don't think so. Like, I did a wildcard video last week, and the 3 Arsenal players I picked were Saka, Gabriel, and Timber. So that tells me that I don't necessarily think that Raya is part of the best 3 Arsenal options right now. But is that enough to sell him? To use a transfer to get rid of someone you've already got that's a pretty good pick? I think you've got to be in such a luxury position to do that. If you're sat there with no issues whatsoever, and you've got 3, 4, 5 transfers, maybe you do it. If you're sat there with 1 or 2, I almost guarantee that transfer will be worth more on a different player later on than freeing up the spot. And also, when I think about the best Arsenal picks, right now if I'm on wildcard, I'm definitely having Gabriel, and I'm almost definitely having Saka as well. And I think Timber's a really good pick. But if I didn't have him, I wouldn't be like massively worried. Same with Gyokeres, right? So that third Arsenal pick is not as important as the first two, if that makes sense. So Saka great, Gabriel great, Timber pretty good right now. Pretty big differential as well. And I do really like him. But I wouldn't be upset if I had Raya, Gabriel, Saka instead. So basically, I think whatever combination of Arsenal players you've got right now, there's probably not a massive need to sell Raya. Like, even if you had Raya, I've got Raya, Gabriel, Gyokeres, so I don't have Saka. You know, it's not a huge worry for me. And if I want Saka, I'm probably selling Gyokeres before I sell Raya. So you could do it if you're in a luxury position, lots of transfers. And you could just do it if you've got two transfers, right? It's completely up to you. It's your team. But don't get into that. Or just be careful of the thinking of, well, I've got nothing to do right now. Team looks great for the next few weeks. Injuries will happen, suspensions will happen, stuff will change, and those transfers will come in useful. So I think you've got to be in a really great position to warrant selling Raya, who is still a good pick, by the way. It's not like he has become bad. It just so happens that EZE, Saka, Gabriel, or Timber, Gabriel, Saka, etc. looks pretty good. But I don't think it's so good you need to be massively concerned about it. Like, EZE looks better right now. There's still not a mad panic to have to bring him in. So if you've got Raya, for most people, I would just keep him. So is it worth investing in one or two West Ham players? I'm on wildcard and currently have Juve and Bowen, so they're definitely worth considering. As I mentioned earlier, next 4 fixtures pretty good. Quick reminder, Brentford at home this week, followed by Leeds away, Newcastle at home, Burnley at home. So I think they're definitely worth considering. Longer term, they're probably not going to be as good for you. So I think if you're wildcarding in game weeks 12 or 13, you would probably go with no West Ham players. It's Bournemouth away in 12, followed by Liverpool at home, Man United away, Brighton away. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't pick them right now, because obviously if I had a wild card every week, I'd always have the perfect team. But long term, I don't really see them as great options. But that's fine. If you're happy to risk, not risk is the wrong word, right? If you want to target the fixtures for the next 4 with Jarrod Bowen, and then decide what to do with him in game week 12, maybe keep hold of him if you've got other issues to deal with, or use a transfer if you don't, that's absolutely okay. So 1 or 2 is definitely worth looking at. I think with Juve, it's a weird season because obviously we've got defensive contributions now. So as much as he has been super attacking, and he's got 4 assists in the first 7 game weeks, he's probably not going to keep up that level of consistency. And he's not great for defensive contributions either. Now, he's only 4.4, so at that price, he could even be your 5th defender, and you could bench him most weeks after game week 11. I just don't see him necessarily as someone that I would want longer term. But again, if it fits into your strategy, it's probably fine. Like, as much as defensive contributions are a thing, so is fun. And I think watching Juve is fun. Like, he makes West Ham games more interesting. So if you wanted to go for him, I really don't hate it. Next 4 are good. You probably wouldn't want to play him again until maybe game week 16 against Villa at home. And then game week 18, you got Fulham at home, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Forest at home. Now, I wouldn't necessarily think too long term because, you know, stuff will change. But honestly, for 4.4 million, if you wanted to go for him over like a Rodon or Goodmanson or someone like that and just bench him in these tougher games, I think it's fine. Like, I wouldn't probably go to 3 West Ham because then when you get to game week 12, you're going to be stuck with all of them. But having someone like Bowen and then Juve on the bench in those tougher weeks, I think that's okay. Like, I've got Paquetá. I'm more than happy to keep him for the next 4, and then I might look at moving him on. I'm not on wildcard, so I probably won't invest in more than that. But yeah, it's okay in the short term. I guess you've got to weigh up how many other players in your team you think you're going to want to sell at the same point. Because if you're only looking at the next 4 game weeks and you're going to get to game week 12, you're going to need like 5 transfers. That's not great. But yeah, the fixtures are good. And we should expect a bit of an upturn with Nuno as well. Not to the point where West Ham are great, but where they're better than they were under Graham Potter. So what would you do with Evanilson? Bowen, Mateta and Gyokeres all seem interesting, but none of them jump out. Now, I'm not going to focus too heavily on who to bring in because I did that a lot earlier on. I'm going to focus more on whether or not you should sell Evanilson or keep hold of him. And I've got him in my team, so I've thought about this quite a lot. For me, this all comes down to how many transfers you've currently got saved up. And I know I've said that a lot this week, but I do think it's really important to consider. Because if you're sat there with 3+ transfers, your decisions are different than if you've got 1. Like, I don't see Evanilson as this massive problem, but I also don't think he's great. So because he's not a massive problem, if I've only got 1 transfer, I prefer to roll. But because he's also not great, if I've got 3+, then maybe I'll use one on him. Like, 3 of the next 4 fixtures are away from home. Palace this week, City in 10, and then Villa in 11. Now, I'm not massively concerned about Bournemouth's fixtures. I've got Semenyo. He's going absolutely nowhere. But Semenyo is great. And Evanilson's not quite at that standard right now. So if I got 3+, I would probably sell him to a better shorter-term player like Joao Pedro or Jarrod Bowen, as I spoke about earlier. If you've got 2 free transfers and you don't see anything else you're going to need to use them on over the next few weeks, you could also move him on. But 3 is the threshold where I would start thinking, okay, maybe I do something about this. But if you could just play him this week or even maybe bench him, then he's got Forest at home in 9. So it's not like he's a massive problem next week. In fact, I'd probably want to play him in that game, especially if Ange Postecoglou is still in charge. Then maybe you reassess in game week 10. Now, I'm not going to spend lots of time here focusing on my own team because I'll do that in the team selection tomorrow. But I think my rough plan is to maybe play him this week, definitely play him in game week 9, then bench him in game week 10. All of a sudden, for my team, he then comes back into Villa away in 11, West Ham at home in 12, which is good, Sunderland away in 13, which is pretty good as well. And then after that game week 13 match, you've then got Everton at home, which is also fine. So then it's like reassessing from game week 15. So it's all about, for me, with players like Evanilson, just reassessing in windows. Do I have the transfers to deal with it right now? No. Well, game week 9's fine. So then I'll worry about it in game week 10. If I can bench him then, whatever. It doesn't matter that he's in my team. He's not wasting a spot because I don't need to use him because I've got lots of defenders that are good that week. Okay, Villa away, it's not amazing, but if I had to play him, it's okay. And then the fixture's good. Then the fixture's good. Then the fixture's good. Then I worry about it in game week 15. So you'll know every week when I speak about him, I'm not excited about him whatsoever. I do think he's better than what we've seen so far, by the way. He is a player that, while he's been at Bournemouth, has put up pretty good numbers, double digits for goals, etc. He has underperformed so far. That won't continue, I don't think. But you'll get from what I say every week, I'm not that excited about him, but I just don't see him as a massive problem. And the fact that none of the options jump out to you means you're not quite sure about what to do. And that should make you value rolling the transfer even more, especially if you're low. So he's 7 million. He's not taking up a huge amount of budget. That game week 9 fixture looks fine. 12 onwards is fine as well. If you've got the moves to get rid of him, fine. But I just don't see him as a massive problem or anything like that. So nice and simple question. Big at the back, yes or no? This season, because of defensive contributions, I feel like this question comes up every single game week. But I also think it doesn't really matter. You can just assess it on a week-by-week basis about whether you're playing 3, 4, or 5 defenders. What I mean by that is, in the past, and I might be misremembering exactly which combination of players we had, but there were times maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago where you would play with 4 or 5 at the back. So big at the back, but you'd also spend a lot of money, like Cancelo, Trent, Reece James, Ben Chilwell, etc. Attacking defenders who cost a lot, and you would play 4 or 5 of them in some weeks. This season, I don't really think that's what people mean. When they say big at the back, they're just talking 4 or 5 defenders. They're not necessarily talking about the money. Like most people who are considering big at the back, they're not thinking I'm going to go with Gabriel and Saliba and Vardiol and Van Dijk. It's more like Gabriel and Timber, then Gyokeres, Senesi, etc., who a lot of people got cheap. So it's not like you've spent the money. And that's why I don't think it matters. Because you can just choose which players are the best in your squad any given week to play. Like, it's not like you're making a conscious decision of, I'm going to spend tons of money in your backline. You've probably got like Richards and Gyokeres and whoever it might be. And so you've still got the attackers as well. So this week, for your team, it might make sense to play 4 at the back. Next week, it might be 3. But my team, for example, I've actually got quite a lot of money in my defence. I've got Gabriel, Van Dijk. I don't even have Gay or Richards. I've got Lacroix, who cost a bit more when I bought him. Then I've got Senesi and Anderson. So I've got quite a lot of money in my backline. I'm playing a back 3 this week. But in future weeks, it's going to make more sense for my team to play a back 4. And possibly, I think I've even looked as far ahead as game week 12. I might even play a back 5. So I talked about Evanilson just a minute ago. That Man City game in game week 10, I'll probably bench him. Because in game week 10, if I just quickly scroll through, I'm always going to play Gabriel. Van Dijk has got a home game, I believe, yet against Villa. Gyokeres is home to Wolves. And Crystal Palace are at home to Brentford. So I'll probably play a back 4. Senesi is the only one I won't play because he's away to Man City. So it'll probably be a 4-4-2. So that week I'll be big at the back. This week, I won't be. I'll play 3. So I don't think it really matters purely because of the way people are structuring their squad with their budget. You're not going with lots of money in your defence. You're just going with lots of defenders that could be played any given week. So big at the back, yes or no? It really depends on your options. You know, if I had, like this week, I'm considering Evanilson or Senesi, 3-4-3 or 4-4-2. But it's not, I don't care about what the formation is. It's just whether or not Evanilson is better than Senesi. And if I think by the deadline Senesi is better, I'll play 4 at the back. Like, that's all your decision is. If you're sat there with, I don't know, Reinders, Semenyo, Salah, Paquetá, Haaland, Joao, Pedro, Bowen, you're going to play 3 at the back because you've got 7 good attackers. So I think people worry. Every week there seems to be this worry. Do I go big at the back or do I not? You're probably not spending a huge amount of money on your defence anyway. So every week just pick who's the best. Unless maybe I'm missing something here, but that's what it feels like. No one's spending 6+ million on 4 or 5 defenders this season. They're going quite a bit cheaper. So yeah, some weeks yes, some weeks no. Hope that helps. Probably doesn't. There we go. That's the usual stuff. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Check out Fantasy Football Hub for 50% off using the links in the description below. And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about team selection.